Charles Tannock, how would you assess the speech of President Buhari, and is there still a risk of splitting off Nigeria?
Well, of course, there is a risk, but I think the risk is less now under the new administration of Mohamed Buhari than it was under Goodluck Jonathan. Goodluck Jonathan proved to be a very ineffective president. The armed forces were hollowed out and corrupted, I'm afraid, and he was totally incapable of launching a credible military response to the threat by Boko Haram, who wished to impose a caliphate, a jihadist Islamist state. And they've carried out terrible atrocities against particularly Christians, but also many Muslim Nigerians, and have kidnapped all the girls who are still not reunited with their families. I have a particular interest in Nigeria. There are very large numbers of Nigerian Brits living in my constituency of London. It's a Commonwealth country. It's the largest population country in sub-Saharan Africa. It now faces very, very serious economic challenges with the collapse of the oil price in terms of budget. But at least Mr. Buhari, President Buhari, has decided to enlist the help of foreign countries, particularly European countries of the EU and America, in the fight against terrorism. And this has to be part of a global strategy, because otherwise, if Nigeria were to collapse, it would be an absolute nightmare and be a security threat to all of us, because already there are significant numbers of Nigerians in the migratory flows coming north to Libya, crossing the Mediterranean to Italy from Libya, and some of them are economic migrants, some of them are refugees. But Nigeria needs to be stabilized. The IDPs need to be able to return to their homelands, particularly in the north, and this kind of highway of terror and crime, which goes right away across Africa from west coast all the way through to Somalia, through the Sahel, needs to be interrupted and ended, because if ISIS were to be defeated in Syria and Iraq, I suspect they wish to regroup in Africa, particularly in Libya and in Mali and all the areas which would connect with Nigeria, where, of course, Boko Haram are part of this ISIS franchise with Al-Shabaab and so on. So we live in dangerous times. So I welcomed the intervention today by President Buhari in the plenary, and the fact that he wishes to have closer engagement with the European Union. And, of course, as a Brit, is also a very important Commonwealth country. And so it ticks many boxes. So we need to stabilize that country and restore peace, prosperity, but above all security, by defeating Boko Haram.
Charles Tannock, you said Boko Haram is an absolute evil. It's a synonym to evil. So what Europe can do to all these suffering families, and is there a chance, you think, that Europe can interfere in a practical way to help them to fight this evil and to return the girls?
Well, I mean, of course, we can give advice on counter-terrorist strategies. Our military are there already giving advice. They need special training. They need a lot of intelligence. And, of course, they also need to find ways of stopping money and arms flowing to Boko Haram. Somebody is helping Boko Haram. I believe some of the help is coming from outside of Nigeria. And so all our military, our law enforcement and our security services are aware of the risk of Boko Haram, and they're also aware that Nigeria also has a problem with organized crime and fraud, and so it is really now a question of helping Nigeria in its hour of need, because any kind of collapse, any kind of establishment of a caliphate or a jihadist state in Nigeria would be a huge existential threat to large chunks of West Africa, where there's already fragile relations between the Christian and Muslim communities.